Hello again to this video clip series, My Journey to God in a Very Secularized World. I would like just to share with you a little article, an email that I wrote a couple of years ago to the head football coach of my the high school football team when I graduated from high school in 1970. When our team at high school won the state championship, California state championship for football at their level. It was the first time. And so I wrote him, his name was Art Davis, who probably by now is about 85 years old. So I wrote to him, I says, "Dear Art, thanks for the greetings." He wrote to me, asked me where my brother Tom was, who was on the football team. "I hope you were able to make contact with my brother Tom. I got to thinking about the similarities of what we both do." You know, I'm a priest, pastor, and he's a head coach. He says, "You were the football coach at Barstow High School. The Barstow High School varsity football team, under your direction, won for the first time the California State Championship, CIF, Division AA, 50 years ago. It was they won in December 1969 when I was a senior in that high school." He says, "You are a football coach. In a certain sense, I might call myself a spiritual coach as a Catholic priest in the Diocese of Perugia, Italy. You, as a coach, know well what it takes to win football games. It takes a lot of preparation, discipline, perseverance, and knowing and following the rules of the game, etc. I too try to help those entrusted to me to do lots of preparation, discipline, perseverance, and following the rules of the game. The rules that guide us to win eternal happiness, not just the happiness of winning the California State Championship. You know well that if you do not practice what you tell your players to do, the players are not convinced of your instructions and thus do not give 100% of themselves in the proper preparation and during the game. So too, if I tell those entrusted to me to live the 10 Commandments, and they see that I do not live the 10 Commandments, they are not convinced so as to have the strength to be able to live the 10 Commandments. You know well what happens if your players are not well prepared physically and mentally. So too, if the souls entrusted to me do not persevere in sincere prayer with their Maker, it is impossible to live the gospel. I think we know all too well how many Christians today say with their mouth the Our Father, "Thy will be done," but live, "My will be done." The preparation of spiritual muscles is very similar to the preparation of physical muscles, in that the more you exercise and live the virtues, such as faith, hope, charity, prudence, justice, fortitude, and temperance, the more they become habitual and easier to live. If some of your players have an attitude that they already know it all, you know well that they are no longer listening to you very well. From my experience, I can tell you that the great majority of Christians today feel that they are self-sufficient and they believe to already know it all and are no longer seeking the truth and morals outside of the interpretation of their own heads. They are no longer seeking the truth from what God has revealed to us and throughout human history, which we call divine revelation. This is why I read the recorded documents of divine revelation, including the sacred scriptures, every day, and as a Catholic, I read the proper interpretation of these documents from the documents of the Catholic Church. With much patience, our mortal enemy, Satan, has led the great majority of Christians and Catholics into subjectivism and relativism, in which each person and each independent Christian group becomes their own God, as happened to our first parents, Adam and Eve, after the temptation of the serpent. And then in the Bible I quoted, "But the serpent said to the woman, and you will not die, for God knows that when you eat of it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil." And I continue, "You know well that part of the mental preparation is also to not only know well the game plan and the various plays to perform together as a team, but also to help your players to know well the strengths and weaknesses of the opponent. The saints tell us that the greatest success of our spiritual opponent, Satan, is to have convinced most Christians that Satan does not exist and that there are no consequences to our thoughts and our actions. Not only in the game of football as a team, but also in the eternal game of deciding where we will spend eternity, we all affect each other, whether we believe it or not. Today there's less prayer than ever before, more sin than ever before, and worse, indifference as if sin no longer exists. And so we have given much greater power to the father of lies, Satan, to deceive us. Satan disguises himself as an angel of light, as St. Paul writes. We are living in a world more full of falsehoods than ever before. Beautiful, deadly lies from the father of lies, presented as if they were the truth. Hidden, destructive deceptions, such as the devil, hell, and sin no longer exist. The great majority of the pastors, spiritual coaches, today are all dumb dogs. They cannot bark. Isaiah 56. And thus do not warn the sheep of the very sly wolf in sheep's clothing, along with his very numerous collaborators. These poor pastors, who seek to please men instead of God, offer misguided compassion and half-truths, which are worse than lies, especially to speak only about mercy without, as Jesus tells us, go and sin no more. They are not good shepherds, but hirelings, who leave the sheep and flee when the wolf comes. How many times did you yell from the sidelines to your players about dangers posed by the opponent as a good coach? You and your players know well the consequences of the lack of preparation and following the rules of the game. It is amazing to me, and perhaps also to you, that we understand these things regarding the outcome of football games and practical things of life, such as getting a good job or having a good future at home, etc. But the great majority of Christians, especially today, totally put aside this common sense when it comes to spiritual things and their eternal destiny. People know that one has to prepare well to win football games or to get a good job and future, and also the very important need to learn from the experts what it takes to achieve success in this life. But regarding eternal success, the great majority of the players in this game of life, we human beings, in which eternity is at stake, do not seek true spiritual experts who are faithful to what God has revealed, not man. Most people are willing to believe the opinions of those who say what they want to hear or what they see on TV, which is the easiest way for them, including that we are only animals and thus we have no responsibility for our actions, and there is no heaven or no hell and no life after death. Could you win a football game if your players operated like this? If your players did not know in which end zone to score, they would end up running the football in the wrong end zone. How many Christians no longer know the goal of life and end up running their souls in the wrong end zone into everlasting separation from their Creator? What happens if each one of your players decided the rules and goal of a football game by themselves? This is what most Christians do today. Who establishes the reality after death? Me, because I believe I am God. And if I believe that hell does not exist, then it does not exist. One of the most fundamental, common and fundamental attitudes, or rather philosophies of life that does not lead to God now and for all eternity is ignorance is bliss. This easier philosophy of life does not help us to discover the truth of God, but of the world, which truly, the truth of God truly sets us free. Nor does it help us to win the football game, and does not facilitate the discovery of the pitfalls and traps laid by our mortal enemy who disguises himself as an angel of light. Is this not also how your football opponent seeks to do, as well as giving false signs and indications to deceive your team in making the wrong strategic decisions? I recently said to a Catholic priest in my diocese who never offers to his parishioners the Catechism of the Catholic Church. I said to him, "What religion do you represent when you don't follow the Catechism of the Catholic Church? Do you teach the rules of football to your players?" I will end this video clip here. May God bless you and Mary guide you.